This is a review of the Fable 3 Collector's Edition Strategy Guide. Now, the reason we're going to look through this today is because it actually has a pretty substantial 100-page art section in the back, which is interesting because, with the exception of Fable Legends, none of the Fable games actually had an art book released. So you can already see it's got a very interesting, very minimalist cover. There's no indication of what this book is actually for. I really do, I mean, it's very bold, and I do like the idea. I guess this is meant to be the Albion flag. So like that, which is pretty interesting. In fact, I'm not even sure if there was like a sticker on the shrink wrap saying that this was a book for Fable. I love this, but I love this the actual cover of the book once you take the dust jacket off, all these posters and this is very interesting. Each copy of the book has one of 4 random covers, so this one has Major Swift on the front, which I quite like, and on the back of the book it had this little flyer thing just telling you the contents. 96-page concept and development gallery. Here are the other covers. We've got Reva, got the sort of Uncle Sam King poster, and then just an Albion crest, and then a digital code to get a free tattoo.
Get a free tattoo.
Now we will go through the whole book page by page because there is actually concept art throughout the book, and also just in case anyone's interested in seeing the full insides of the book, I wonder if there's any difference between this collector's edition and the standard edition in terms of the main contents, because at the moment I just assume the only difference is the cover and the art section in the back. However, this review is going to be very much focused on this as a visual book, which is obviously not its primary purpose. It's supposed to be a strategy guide, and so by rights its value as a book should be judged based on that. So if at any point it seems like some of the criticisms I am making are somewhat irrelevant to the actual intent of the book, just remember the lens we're going to view this through today. But I have actually read through the whole guide, and except for a number of typos, it does seem really good. I didn't notice any shortcomings or problems with the actual guide itself. I've always felt that strategy guides are kind of a waste of money in the internet age, or at least they sort of encourage you not to play the game in a natural way. But after going through this book, I actually do see a lot of the appeal beyond these books just being guides to the game, and that people may actually like these just as a memento of their time playing the game, or as a collectible as part of their enthusiasm for the game, which may explain why so many strategy guides get collector's editions. And something that almost all collector's edition strategy guides include is some sort of art section, which has always been really intriguing and tempting to me, especially for games that don't have their own art books. But almost everyone I've seen, they're either like about 10 pages or they're just really bad. It never seems worth buying like a 500-page book just for a couple of sketches and concept pieces. But like I said at the start, this Fable 3 book has almost 100 pages, which is certainly one of the most substantial bonus sections. In fact, just off the top of my head, the only ones I can think of that might have done better are Fable 2. I will be doing a review on that. And I'm pretty sure one of the first 2 Assassin's Creed games came with the collector's edition, actually came with a separate art book included with it. And so I sort of gave in to that temptation with the Fable 2 and 3 collector's edition guides, because I felt that such a high page count compared to other strategy guides might actually be worth it for the art you get, especially because I just adore the art direction for Fable. The first Fable game didn't get a collector's edition strategy guide to my knowledge, but Fable Anniversary, which is sort of just a light remaster of the first game, that did get a hardcover collector's edition strategy guide that does include a bonus art and development section, but with that one it was one of those sort of like dozen or so page deals, so I didn't think it was worth picking that one up. But that still could be something you want to check out. And like I said, it was such a shame that none of the games received its own art book, or even like a trilogy art book. I think would have been really cool. One of the very earliest reviews I did on this channel was actually for the art book for Fable Legends, and at the time I had never played any of the Fable games, I was definitely aware of them and even considered myself a fan, but since then I have played all three games and just think they're so much fun. Even Fable 3, which I think people are way too hard on. Obviously it does make a lot of missteps, but still a very, very fun game. And now in hindsight, I think I am actually glad that Fable Legends was cancelled. I don't feel it was a good direction to take the franchise, and so I really have my fingers crossed that Fable 4 will be able to get these games back on track. But anyway, back to the book. One thing that really surprised and delighted me about this book was all the visuals that are throughout the book. Like, a strategy guide to me seems like something that a developer or publisher would make just as a quick cash grab, but I was really impressed by the effort that has been put into layout and presentation and graphic design all throughout this book. And I think that's very smart, as it really helps give you an experience that you couldn't get just from looking this stuff up online. The construction of the book is also really good, really high quality. The only thing is the pages are very, very thin. They're kind of like a magazine-y type paper, which is certainly not unusual for a strategy guide, because you have to pack 500 pages into a reasonably sized book. And speaking of things that most strategy guides do, I think the only thing that I was really disappointed in was the actual screenshots themselves. And so that's certainly not something that's unique to this book, but I'm always surprised whenever I look through strategy guides how low quality the images appear. And I'm not sure, but maybe that's just got something to do with the difficulty of capturing these game screenshots at a high enough resolution to be able to reproduce in print properly. Or maybe it just got to do with the fact that a 2-inch screenshot can't really compare to, the massive living, breathing image you see when you play the game on a television. Because remember earlier in the video I was saying how some fans might enjoy these sort of books as sort of mementos of their time playing the game. I have definitely had that thought with some of my favorite games of getting the strategy guides just for the sake of the screenshots. But whenever I look through them, I'm inevitably disappointed by the quality. And it never really feels like it does justice to the visuals of the game. But something this book does really well with its visuals is you'll have seen the concept art that's throughout the book. This was really surprising to me. I have seen this in a couple of strategy guides, but there just seems to be a lot in this book. Every couple of pages there'll be a character concept or a landscape or an item, something like that. And I think that's really cool, especially because there is some artwork throughout the main body of the book that doesn't actually appear in the art section in the back. Similarly, there is stuff in the back that doesn't appear throughout the book, but then there is also stuff that appears in both sections. But I think the use of art throughout is really great and really helps add a lot of value and fulfillment to this book instead of just, having all the art stuff crammed in the back. Just helps the entire book be a more visually engaging experience. So then we get to the main event, the art of Fable 3. And here's where things get a little tricky with the review. Because the thing is, this art section is very good, but is it good enough to warrant purchasing the whole book? It sort of depends on who you are, but honestly, I don't really think so. I mean, if you are someone who is buying it for the strategy guide, then I think it's an amazing bonus section. Like I said, it's definitely the biggest and best of pretty much any strategy guide I've ever seen. And if you're someone who was considering getting the standard edition strategy guide and you were wondering if it was worth the upgrade to the collector's edition, then I say 100% yes. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you'll know I am not a fan of anything collector's edition, but in this instance I think it's well worth it. Likewise, if you are someone who is like the biggest Fable fan of all time, then you will probably like this book as well, if for no other reason than just having it as part of your collection. However, for people like myself who are big fans of the game, but maybe not crazy big fans, or if you're just more generally interested in the fantasy art or the art direction of Fable, which, like I said, I adore, you've got to ask yourself, is this 100 pages worth buying the whole entire book? Now, that's something that's going to change from person to person. Your eyeballs and brain will be able to work that out based on what you see here and how substantial your treasury is. But personally, I did find it to be good, just not as perhaps amazing as I had have hoped for. I think to sort of tip the balance, it would have needed either more stuff, like more pages, or just a better curation of the images. I feel like most of the stuff is like, here's a color character sketch, and then next to that is the final 3D model, which both of them basically look the same. But then it's the stuff around that that is sort of the most enjoyable part. The few fleeting glimpses of alternate designs, or the section on unused characters. It's just 2 pages, but that's definitely the sort of stuff I would have liked to have seen more of. Probably too much character design. I think it could have used a little more environment and location stuff. Also, you'll have seen as we go through that there are little pieces of text throughout. This is supposed to be, I guess, designer and artist commentary, but it is just awful. It's just the most asinine stuff I've ever seen as part of a commentary to an art book. It's pretty much just them describing the in-game function of whatever character or location you're looking at, like they're trying to explain it to someone who hasn't actually played the game. So at this stage, as much a fan as I am of Fable and the art direction of the game, I'm really not sure if this is the sort of book that I can see myself holding on to forever. However, because I hadn't seen anything like a full flip through or anything like that online, I really did still enjoy going through the book once just to sort of satisfy that curiosity. And so just to go through the whole book and find out a little bit more about it, I did find really interesting and enjoyable, and hopefully you did too.